We're back on the ML Sports Platter. It's all brought to you by our great friends at Stanley Law Offices. Together, they'll work to get you the maximum reward, and a tip of the cap thank you as well to our friends from the Allen Angus Pub and RV Source of Central New York. My man Mike and his team, they've got all of it with the RVs if you need them. Buy, sell, rent, and of course, you can service your RV as well. Go check them out on Facebook. I'm bringing in one of my favorites. I've read, I think, all of his books or most of his books. The best-selling author, John Eisenberg, joins us. You can get him on Twitter at @BMoreEisenberg. He's got a great project that he's working on. I bring him in. John, welcome aboard, man. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too, Mike. Thanks for having me in to talk about this.
So people can see right there what's written, and they can check out what you have on the Twitter handle, or I guess X handle, whatever they're calling it these days. But why don't you intro this thing? This is your new project, your new adventure, a team that you've been close to for years, the Baltimore Orioles, and their history right there at that Substack website. Take it away, man.
Yeah, so it's something that grew out of a book I did, one of my first books way back in the day when I was writing at the Baltimore Sun. I took on a side gig. I wrote a book about the history of the Orioles. It's an oral history. So I went around the country interviewing. This is in 1999 and 2000. Book came out in 2001. I interviewed everybody who'd ever done anything for the team to that point, was still alive or was still willing to talk to me or whatever. And so I accumulated a lot of interviews, a lot of tape. And I wrote the book, and it came out. I kept the tapes. I put them all on little micro cassette tapes back in the day, little plastic tapes. And I kept them. I threw them in a shoebox. I did nothing with them for 20 years. I knew they were sitting in there, tick, 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 right? But it was the history of the team sitting in a shoebox in my closet. And so I finally, within the past year, decided I need to do something with these tapes. A lot of these guys have unfortunately passed away. I had interviews with Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, Earl Weaver, all the famous Orioles in history. I have all the general managers, some of whom are in the Hall of Fame: Lee McPhail, Harry Dalton, Hank Peters, years and years of Orioles history. So what I'm doing is I am getting these tapes digitized so they become modern, consumable entities, and I'm rolling them out in weekly posts at this Substack page. And I've already put up 2 hours with Brooks Robinson when he's in great health and talking about his career. These are biographical interviews. They talk about their careers and how they got started. So it's a real treasure trove, and I'm just putting it out and also writing some new history to sort of give it some context.
It's amazing. And I got to tell you, so even though I grew up a diehard Yankee fan and still am a Yankee fan, I go, you're objective, but we started subjective, all of us, right? We started as fans somehow. So there is a little bit of that subjectivity, still with me. But I will say, if it's not the Yankees in the AL East, if it's not the Yankees in the AL overall, I root for Baltimore. I mean, I like to see this franchise do well because there's a lot of connections for me. My sister lives a half hour north of the city in Forest Hills. I've been to Camden probably more times than any place else besides the old Yankee Stadium. I've interviewed Cal. I've seen him at Cooperstown a couple of times. I've had you on the show a lot. My good buddy Kevin Brown is now the voice of the team on television. So I love the Orioles. I love what they stand for. I'm glad they're winning again. Again, not at the expense of the Yanks, but please do make the playoffs. And they have so many guys, man, the Robinsons and Weaver and Ripken and Palmer and Murray and on down the list. How do you feel right now as somebody who's covered this team for decades? Finally, they're back. They're really good. A core of young players. Gunner's amazing. They bring in Corbin Burns. It's a destination again. The ballpark is full. It's got to make you, John Eisenberg, feel pretty darn good.
Yeah, they sold the team. Don't leave that out. Peter Angelos, the attorney who sold the team, was sort of a controversial figure here in Baltimore. Team's been bought by David Rubenstein, very wealthy guy, and it comes at an interesting. He's local. Comes at an interesting time because they got all these young players now, tons of them. Yeah. And stars, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman. There's more coming. The minor league system is loaded. Yeah. And so they're entering a period of time where I think they're going to be really good, maybe for a long time. And they got to sign these guys, and they got to keep this nucleus together. And it's a great time. It's kind of stunning, honestly, because they really were in a tough period there for a while, and the ballpark was kind of empty. But now it just goes to show, if you put a winning product on the field, the people will come, because they have a what can be better in baseball than a roster, a nucleus of young talent, watching them grow. And that's exactly where they are. And so it's really fun, and it's exciting. And so that's part of the reason why I'm bringing these tapes out. I feel like there's renewed interest in the team, and a lot of interest in sort of where the Orioles marketing team, they're referring to this season as the next chapter. And my line is, what I've got is the previous chapters. So you can have a little context here and understand where they came from, and how they got here.
Yeah, it's a proud franchise. It's a trademark AL team. And, they had obviously a lot of success 70s and 80s. And then the 90s, they had a ton of success too. But sometimes it's the era you play, right? I mean, there's a lot of great tennis players that don't have more than one Grand Slam because they had to deal with Federer, Nadal, and Joker. There's my guy Josh Allen and the Bills. They got to deal with the Chiefs. You have Barkley, Malone, Stockton, Ewing, and a host of others. They don't have a ring because of Michael Jordan. The Oriole teams that you look back at the 90s, that group, Palmeiro and Ripken and a lot of those players, Mussina before he became a Yankee, when it was Camden Yards, the new ballpark and the streak and all that, how much of that is in this Substack?
Yeah, there's a lot. I haven't put those up yet. That's coming. I mean, it's a subscriber model, and people can sign up for a year at this for this. And I do have interviews with all those guys from that era, and I will get to that era. It's a great era. Ripken, Mike Mussina, Brady Anderson, Palmeiro before he got nailed for for drugs. I have all these interviews, and the Ripken interview actually I'm going to put up pretty soon, because I actually wrote a book about Cal's streak and endurance in baseball.
Great one.
And so and I was there for all of it. But in this Bird Tapes interview that I've got with him, it's amazing, because his dad, of course, was a manager, was a coach forever, and is really an iconic figure in Oriole history. And Cal grew up going to spring training as a kid, and going to the minor leagues. His dad would get sent out to Aberdeen, South Dakota, or wherever, and he'd go out there. And so it's an amazing life in baseball, long before he became a superstar, his life in baseball. And so, and he's such a great storyteller. It's really a biography of a kid destined to be a star who grew up in the game, and he tells that story.
No doubt. Birdtapes.substack.com. Go subscribe today. John Eisenberg with us on the ML Sports Platter, brought to you by Stanley Law Offices in Bern Dairy. You got to subscribe now. And John has obviously written some unbelievable books, the best-selling author. I've had you on, John, maybe I'm trying to go through it now. 1, 2, 3, I think at least 4 or 5 times with a lot of your books here. That first season, how Vince Lombardi took the worst team in football, in the NFL, and set it rather on the path to glory. That's one of my favorites. You mentioned the streak. Obviously, the last time I had John was for Rocket Men, the black quarterbacks who revolutionized pro football. So you got to get all of John's books all over major book websites like Amazon and your major bookstores. So the Orioles Mount Rushmore, right? We love to talk Mount Rushmores. Who is on that thing? Because I think when you look at the franchises in pro sports, I think you can take, you could take owners and executives and players probably, because everybody has a hand. Who's on the Orioles one? And that 4th spot in every one, it always seems to be the hardest, right?
4th spot's very hard. The first 3, I mean, certainly Brooks Robinson is first.
Yep.
And Cal Ripken as well. There's no brainer. And Frank Robinson, I think he only played here. This is where these Mount Rushmores get interesting. He only played here 6 years.
I know.
So
he had a Reggie Jackson impact, though, right? It's kind of similar. It's like Reggie and the Yankees, Frank and the Orioles. Yes. It's kind of similar. Yeah.
I think you put him on there. I think Frank is on there. The 4th one, you're getting into Eddie Murray or Jim Palmer, Earl Weaver, the manager. I think I mean, and then there's other guys. I got a post going up today of Boog Powell at 300 something home runs. He's the last Oriole not named Ripken to win the American League Most Valuable Player Award. And so I don't know. I think it comes down to Boog Powell. I'm sorry, not Boog Powell. To Jim Palmer or Eddie Murray. And I mean, that's I mean, there's no other pitcher on there, so maybe they got to be a pitcher. So we'll go with a pitcher.
Yeah, that's mine. I mean, you just gave it for me. It's Frank Robinson, Cal Ripken Jr., Brooks Robinson, and Jim Palmer. I tell you this though, Boog Powell is on the barbecue Mount Rushmore as well. We could definitely verify that one. Hey, maybe my Bonaventure alums could be considered too, right? John McGraw, Hugh Jennings, if you want to go way back when.
Well, yes, I mean baseball, and yes, for sure. The Baltimore Orioles at the turn of the century, for sure. And then they were 50 years as a minor league, International League Orioles, and there's history all over this town. I'm still in Baltimore. There's unbelievable baseball history here, and so there's historical markers. They're still putting them up in Negro leagues. It's really quite a baseball history here. Yeah,
really, no doubt about it. I always loved when I was at St. Bonnie because it's known as a basketball school, but I would walk by and go, that's McGraw Jennings Field. And I had to tell people who the hell they were. And they're like, oh, really? And so it was pretty cool. With the baseball field and the mountains in the background, it's gorgeous. What do you hope when people subscribe? What do you hope they're getting out of it? What do you hope that they're saying about it? And trust me, I'm pushing this thing like crazy down to my sister and at CCBC and all the Oriole fans down there. You can count on me to push it down there. But what do you hope people are kind of doing with it?
I just hope what I think the Orioles have a lot of new fans with this, new generation of fans walking around town with their Adley Rutschman jerseys on and their Gunner jerseys. And so there's a couple things for longtime fans of the team. I just want them to enjoy this. I mean, I really felt like I have something here. I could have donated this to Society for American Baseball Research or to Cooperstown. I mean, there's lots of places, and I may end up doing that. What to do with these tapes was a big question. I decided, why don't I put it out there in a sort of a public forum? So let anybody on their phone, like they're consuming stuff today, just listen to it in your earbuds. I mean, you want to hear Brooks Robinson, talk about his life and his career, or Frank or any of these guys. It just adds to if you're a fan of the team, it hopefully adds to the experience of being a fan of the team. I just really did it honestly here for the public. I felt like, golly, I have my fingertips, because anybody around here that I told I have this, they said, you have to put those out. Yeah. You have to let people hear this. I have 2 hours with the owner of the team, Peter Angelos, who recently passed away. Unfortunately, Mike Flanagan, the great pitcher, who took his own life years later. I have 2 hours with him. Witty, funny, hilarious. I have some powerful stuff, and I think if you really want to know where the Orioles came from and where they, and the continuum where they are now, this is the story. It's the deluxe version. And so I just hope people will want to consume and enjoy and listen to true baseball history. These guys tell their stories because that's what they do.
By the way, at the beginning of the interview, John, you cracked me up because you're talking about the interviews on those cassette tapes. And I thought you were going to roll out like mini discs and all these different things because I'm a little bit younger than you. Yeah, there it is. I'm a little younger than you are, but I'm no spring chicken anymore. I mean, I graduated college now in 2002. I mean, I remember in my early radio career and in college, I was using the mini disc stuff, and we used all that stuff. Adam Shine, when I interned for him at WHEN, I mean, we were putting all those old tapes and stuff. It wasn't that long ago, but really it was. And we went out with tape decks out to interview players at the Dome and everything. I mean, oh my gosh, you cracked me up with that stuff.
Well, here are these micro cassettes. Here's my Jim Palmer interview here, which I'm going to go take over. See, the key to it all, I found a guy who could digitize this. And actually, there's lots of businesses out there where you can do that. I had to find one because literally I couldn't find my recorder. It was somewhere in my closet. I don't know where it is. Maybe in a clean out, its life ended. I have no idea, but I couldn't find my recorder. So I had to find somebody who could turn. I have 59 tapes, and I needed to find someone who could turn these into modern media entities. And
Sure.
so that's the key to the whole thing, is finding someone who can do that. And I did. So that's slowly but surely taking them to get digitized and then rolling them out.
Well, the tapes may be aging a little bit, so you got to get them out there. But we know Jim Palmer isn't aging. My gosh, the guy
No.
looks younger and younger by the day.
Yeah.
Final question that I have for you is, when is it all done? I guess that's when people can keep subscribing, keep listening. I love the audio part too, because as an old school radio guy, audio is always important to me. And I know video's big now, but we're moving all the time, so earbuds are in and all that. So I love that, but it keeps going, and then it's done when's the stop sign for John Eisenberg on this baby?
I don't know. And it could morph into something else. That's like a Substack's an interesting media platform. Yeah. People can do with it what you want. I might start a podcast there. That you have the ability to do that. I think, dirty little secret, I am going to do a podcast in this market later this summer, a Bird Tapes podcast with modern interviews, current interviews with guys, sort of move the ball along a little bit. It could go in a lot of directions. I don't know what's going to come of it. It's just, I feel like I've been around the Orioles for a long time. I have these tapes, and we'll see what the next step is. But I'm giving it a lot of thought, and I have enough interviews to last certainly for a year. And then beyond that, it might morph into something else, Orioles history, Orioles content, one way or the other. But I'm not writing in this market anymore. I've retired from the Baltimore Ravens, which is where I was working their digital stuff. So it's just an outlet for me in this market, and we'll see what comes next.
Can't wait to see that. birdtapes.substack.com. Subscribe today. Go get all of John's books. I mentioned a few earlier. Don't forget about The League, how 5 rivals created the NFL and launched a sports empire. One of the most fascinating books I've ever read, for sure. All over Amazon.com, the major platforms, and of course your nearby bookstores like Barnes & Noble. John, it was great to catch up with you again, man. Good luck on this continued project. Thanks for reaching out to me. You beat me to the punch, because I was going to get you a couple days after, and I'll keep having you on, man, and I'll push this thing hard down in the Baltimore, Maryland area for sure.
Well, I appreciate you having me on to talk about this. It's a new project, something different, and it's a lot of fun. So, yeah, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.